Manali, should we be playing the Aditi? Should we be playing the countdown already?
Give it a second. I'm just trying to get through to Mr. Mavapoulos.
We'll wait.
Manali, play the video meanwhile.
Playing the countdown already?
Give it a second. I'm just trying to get
Manali, play the video.
environmental technology platforms. And you know, in terms of the sustainable development goals, clean water, sanitation, and climate action. So IFAD brings together the technology providers.
Let's have the countdown.
Well, good afternoon to all our participants. I am Robin Fernandez from SM München, India, the organizers of IFAT India. On behalf of IFAT India and ISWA, the International Solid Waste Association, we extend a very warm welcome to the industry leaders, our community of attendees. IFAT India is a leading environmental technology trade fair that brings policymakers, industry players, thought leaders, and innovators from across the globe together. To get us thinking today and strongly pave the way forward, I'm glad we have distinguished speakers, our elite panelists, who are stalwarts from industry. We thank all of our speakers for accepting our invitation and being present here to share your knowledge with our attendees and visitor community. The discussion today is being recorded and will be shared via YouTube soon after the session, and also we are going live as you see it here on Zoom. Well, I'm pleased to hand it over to Aditi Ramola, the Technical Director of ISWA, to please take things forward with the panelists. Thank you, Aditi, for accepting our invitation and helping us moderate this session and putting this together. Over to you, Aditi.
Thank you very much, Robin. I'd like to play my presentation if it's possible, Santosh. Can you share your screen? Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm Aditi from the International Solid Waste Association, and I'm moderating today's webinar on Waste Decoded, the role of technologies in a circular economy. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our presentations are going to be followed by a question and answer session at the end. So we encourage you to type your questions in the chat window marked as Q&A on your screen below. We will be choosing a few of these questions for the speakers to answer at the end. Next, please. So before I hand over to our speakers, I would actually just like to take a moment to introduce you to ISWA, as some of you joining us today don't know much about us and you're not yet members. So the International Solid Waste Association is a global, independent, and non-profit making association. It is the only worldwide association promoting sustainable, comprehensive, and professional waste management, while we also promote the transition to a circular economy. We're open to individuals and organizations from the scientific community, public institutions, and public and private companies from all around the world that are working in the field or are interested in waste management. Our mission is to promote and develop sustainable professional waste management. And we do this through members from over 110 countries. Next, please. So ISWA is counting on the support of our members. So if you're not yet a member, please take a moment to visit our membership page by visiting the link on the screen below. You could also reach out to a membership manager. His name is Mr. Daniel Purchase, and you can write to him at dpurchase@iswa.org. We have several membership options with discounts for students, for low-income countries, for online memberships. So go take a moment and look at our membership options. Next, please. So coming to the topic of today, the role of technologies in a circular economy. So technology has been rapidly advancing in the recent decades. However, its uptake within the waste management sector has been rather slow. And the global pandemic might actually help reverse this trend with its potential uses within the sector. For instance, you know about the fourth industrial revolution, which is spurring various technological innovations such as sensors, screeners, robots, apps, GPS systems. And this can actually help us move or help the waste and resource management sector move into a digital age. So today, in our today's session, we're going to address some of the challenges and opportunities that face the sector today, and what role can these technologies play in taking us forward to a circular economy. Next, please. So some trends that actually are emerging as a result of the ongoing global pandemic is a digital pivot in our waste management systems. We're also looking at good extended producer responsibility schemes, perhaps a new digital marketplace for recyclables. Who knows? We're still early on in the pandemic. We will see where it goes. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation a few years ago found that adopting circular economy principles would put India on a path to positive, regenerative, and value-creating development with an annual benefit of 40 lakh crore rupees, which at that time, the estimate was $624 billion in 2050 compared to the current development path. So let us see what the speakers have in store for us today, and let us see what the pandemic is going to mean for this forecast. We have an eminent panel of speakers with us, and I would like to start by introducing Mr. Antonis Mavropoulos. Mr. Mavropoulos is the founder and CEO of D-Waste and the president of the International Solid Waste Association. He has been involved in the solid waste management sector for over 25 years. He's done projects in over 22 countries and has completed over 200 projects. He strongly believes that a wasteless future is realistic by combining technical and social innovation. His recent research work deals with the fourth industrial revolution, and he's going to talk a little bit about that today. I would also take a moment to introduce all the other panelists. We have Dr. Agarwal with us. Dr. Vivek Agarwal is the chairman of the Institute of Chartered Waste Managers, which is the national member of ISWA in India. Dr. Agarwal is a qualified medical doctor, believe it or not, and he decided to turn his passion of working with disadvantaged sections of society into his profession. So through the Center for Development Communication, an NGO of which he's a trustee, he has been instrumental in introducing micro-entrepreneur-based models of decentralized municipal solid waste management in India. Moving on to Dr. Seema Awasthi. Dr. Seema Awasthi is the director of ICUC Consultants Private Limited based in Delhi. She holds a doctorate in environmental engineering and has more than 20 years of experience in the waste management sector in the urban environment. She has worked in countries, of course, in India, Nepal, Maldives, Mexico, and she has worked as a solid waste management professional in a number of waste management projects across more than 200 urban local bodies within India, with a cumulative volume of waste of about 60,000 tons per day. Moving on to Mr. Masood Malik. Mr. Malik is currently the joint MD at Ramki, and he's overseeing Ramki's enviro operations globally across all business verticals. He has worked with leading international corporations, investors, financial institutions, law firms on environmental issue management in India and internationally for close to 25 years. He's recognized as a subject matter expert in management of hazardous materials, waste management, and the rehabilitation of contaminated sites. And last but not the least, we have with us Mr. Ulhas Palekar. Mr. Palekar is currently a global consultant. He works on strategies for waste management, circular economy, policy advocacy, AFRs, and co-processing. He retired after a really long time with GeoCycle in 2018. He has over 36 years of work experience at various organizations such as Hindustan Lever, National Peroxide, ACC Limited. And he has spearheaded co-processing initiative in the country and established it as a business model for large-scale management of waste as resources in cement manufacturing. So if you actually count the years of experience that we have on our panel today, it's over 100 years. And I'm really happy and honored to have them join us as panelists. And so without further ado, I'd actually like to give the floor now to our keynote speaker, Mr. Antonis Mavropoulos. Over to you, Mr. Mavropoulos.
Thank you very much, Aditi. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today. And I'm going to share with you some thoughts that correlate the recent pandemics and circular economy in a way that reveals several useful insights. Let me share my screen first. Okay, I hope now you are able to see my screen. Is it okay? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. We can, yes.
Okay, so let's go directly one by one. I'm going to speak about three things. What we can learn from the pandemics about circular economy, what is the real problem of our world as it was identified during the pandemics, and what is the way forward for a better planet. Let's start with this. You know, during the pandemics, if someone wants to speak with numbers, there are three big things that we have identified. First, industrial production was reduced by roughly 20%, from 18 to 24%, depending on the country. Second, we had roughly 3 billion people in lockdowns. And third, we have minus 17% in greenhouse gases emissions, just because a lot of the commercial and industrial activities were shut down. It's the first time in our recent history that we have an impact like that, that was voluntarily developed and not as a result of a war or a big catastrophe. Actually, someone said, this could be very easily the impact of a huge meteorite that hit Earth in a specific place. So this was the impact of the pandemic. This is what we did. And it's important to understand that what we did has a planetary scale and a planetary impact. As an example, minus 17% greenhouse gases emissions, it's something that we need to keep on an annual basis for the next 20 years if we want to approach the Paris Agreement on climate change. Now, let's go deeper on that. Let's see what happened. First, during the COVID-19 crisis, we realized that there is a conflict of interest between continuing our daily life and work and protecting our health. Actually, the big debate in many countries was how important it is to protect our health versus how important it is to continue our activities, our business as usual activities, to continue the work as we really do it. Second, during the COVID-19 pandemics, we realized that no matter how strong we are or what we believe for our societies, there are really real limits to our systems. Two of them, we faced them very well. We faced a serious shortage of personal protective equipment and healthcare systems capacity. And we realized that although both of them are not too difficult to be resolved, we were not prepared. Third, during the pandemics, all the lockdown measures and the regulation of what we are going to do with our economies and our daily lives was based on the natural cycle of the virus. This small, invisible virus imposed in its natural cycle on our own lives. And this is a very good signal of how strong natural phenomena can be comparing to the social strength and capacity of our societies. No matter how advanced we are, resilience becomes a more important quality than growth of our systems. We noticed it very well during the pandemics, where all the global trade was locked down, where a lot of things that we used to import and export were simply not available. And last but not least, during the pandemics, we faced, although not in a big extent, shortages, mainly to the things that we are usually import. And this proves again how important it is to have a local, strong economy and supply chain to protect you during difficult times where the world became rapidly deglobalized in few days. Let's build more on that. Let's compare the pandemics with climate change. First of all, both of them, they delivered a serious global impact. Second, both of them were, and they are, the climate change is still underestimated by a lot of politicians. For both of them, we were not prepared. And in both of them, in many cases, we are losing time because we appreciate and prioritize the importance of the economic cycle versus the importance of the health of our ecosystems. Third, in both cases, when we were late to respond, we faced serious problems. You can see now that the biggest problem was in USA, the country that puts much more importance to economic development and growth than to health protection. And the reason of this big problem in USA is not only the slow response, but also the continuously updated debate about the importance of the coronavirus, despite the 150,000 dead people. Another common element between pandemics and climate change is that both of them are manageable only through a coordinated global response. Because although they start as local phenomena, very rapidly they were developed to a global pandemic. And you need a global coordinated response to manage this, exactly as you need the same for climate change. Also, both in pandemics and climate change, it was proven that the poor are more vulnerable. We know well now that in USA, 65% of the deaths related to the pandemics are for marginal and vulnerable communities. And of course, it can be the other way around, because in USA, the cost to be hospitalized for the pandemics ranges between $16,000 to $31,000 per person, which means that a big part of the population simply are not, they do not have any hope to be hospitalized. One more thing, to manage the pandemics, we were obliged to take very radical shifts in our daily lives, which is exactly what we need to do to manage climate change as well. And finally, during the pandemic, you realized how important it is to base your decision on expertise and science. There is no room for charlatans in this field when you are talking about life and death. And the same exactly is the case for climate change, because there are a lot of charlatans that still doubt about the importance of climate change. Now, how did we manage finally the pandemics? First, one key issue was that we focused on the essentials only. So we realized that we can live without the latest fashion industry outcomes. We can live without importing everything. We just need to have the essentials in good quality and quantity to manage such a serious crisis. We also realize that local markets and production are a condition for resilience. The more localized is the markets and the production, the better the self-sustainability of any system. Third, we realize how important is commonwealth. And we realize how important is commonwealth through the importance of good public health systems. And commonwealth is not only about health, it's also about environment, it's also about pollution, it's also about climate change. 4, to realize that our consumption has certain capacity limitations, and we have to respect them to go through the pandemics. By the way, this is exactly what we need to do to manage climate change and to move to circular economy. We cannot have an endless growing consumption. We have to respect certain capacity limits. During the pandemics, all of us were obliged to rethink the relationship between our economy and growth. And we realized that health protection is still a primary driver for our societies, although in many cases, we really underestimate it. Last but not least, we managed the first wave of the pandemics by putting an end to the business as usual activities. This end of business as usual is what we need to think for climate change and circular economy too. What is the real problem of our world? Well, schematically, I will present it like this. Here you can see our ecosystem, the natural capital, the biosphere. And within it, we have our economy, the man-made structures. Our economy takes matter and energy from the ecosystem and gets out energy in the form of losses and matter in the form of waste. Now, what is the problem? The problem is that this is our world when the economy is still a small one. But right now, our economy has become too big, and it really touches the natural limits of our world. We are still able to receive a lot of materials, resources, and energy, but we are not able to dispose of safely our waste. So the problem is that we have a world that the economic system is continuously expanding and it touches the limits of our natural ecosystem. And let me build more on that. Let me give you this example. This is the footprint of the ecological footprint and the biodiversity from biodiversity losses between 1961 and 2010. As you can see clearly, after 1970, we have the ecological footprint is continuously going up. So today, it's roughly double than it was in 1970. And we have a huge ecological deficit that is continuously increasing. The Stockholm Institute has developed the idea of the natural limits, the natural barriers, planetary boundaries, in a graphic way like this. According to the Stockholm Institute, we have 7 planetary boundaries: climate change, stratospheric ozone depletion, atmospheric aerosol, ocean acidification, biogeochemical flows, freshwater use, land system change, and biosphere integrity. And you can see already in 3 of them, the genetic diversity, the phosphorus and nitrogen pollution, and probably in climate change, we are already beyond the uncertainty zone. We are in the high risk zone in which the natural boundaries are already overcome by human activities. And this is exactly what we are trying to resolve with moving to circular economy. We want to create an economy that will be regenerative, an economy that will respect the natural limits of our planet. By the way, this is exactly the subject of the book that ISVA and Wiley Publications are going to publish on September 17, Industry 4.0 and Circular Economy Towards a Wasteless Future or a Wasteful Planet. This is a book I was honored to co-author with Anders Nielsen, and we are trying to answer the question, how is it possible to use the technological revolution of Industry 4.0 in a way that will allow us to rebalance the planet through circular economy approaches. I'm pretty sure that you will find it very interesting, and we will make a specific discussion about that when it comes out. Now, all these things are directly related with waste management and circular economy. As a lot of you already know, global warming is also a waste disposal problem. In this case, the problem goes like this. We have an annual input of roughly 10 billion tons of CO2 emissions in the atmosphere. And then what it goes out is about 5.5 billion tons CO2 emissions, 30% to plants and soils and 26% to the oceans. So what we want to do actually is to reduce this 10 billion input to the level of the maximum output. Otherwise, the CO2 that goes out cannot be absorbed by natural phenomena, as it is the case when it is below 5.5 billion tons, which means that global warming is a problem of CO2 disposal. Atmosphere, which is the natural sink for CO2 emissions, is not capable anymore to receive more CO2 without disturbing the whole ecosystem. So, unless we will be able to reduce substantially the CO2 emissions, as we did it during the pandemics, we don't have a disposal place for that. And this will create all the disruption to the climate, as you have discussed. So what we need to do to tackle global warming? Let me put it in a broad way. First, we need to develop a lot of renewable energy, a lot of solar and wind energy, a lot of hydroelectrics. We need to go the renewable energy 10 or 15 times more than it is today to start feeling the impact. Second, we need to electrify huge sectors of our economy, mainly the transportation sector and the car industry. To do that and to utilize renewables, we need to have a huge revolution in battery making, a lot of innovations that will make batteries more reliable, more stable, and capable to deliver much more capacity than they have now. And to take the full benefits, we need to move to driverless cars that will optimize CO2 emissions and reduce accidents and fuel consumption. Now, all of these require a lot of metals, a lot of lithium, a lot of cobaltium. The World Bank has assessed that to tackle global warming, we need 1.5 billion tons of metals to be extracted from the earth by 2050. The problem is that these metals simply are not available. A lot of them are not available in the quantities we want them. Some of them are very close to be very close to finish their commercial available ores, and some other are already finished. So if we want to develop all these movement to tackle the global warming problem, circular economy in metals becomes a condition, because only through circular economy we will be able to find a lot of the metals we are looking for. In this way, someone understands that circular economy is not just an environmental protection policy. It's not only a new model of economic development, but it's also a condition to tackle global warming. And this upgrades circular economy much higher than we usually consider it is. Let me put it in another way. What we need to do is to develop a whole new economic model that, through domino effects from extraction to consumption, will deliver a much smaller CO2 footprint. How much smaller it could be? This great study that was done by Circle Economy has calculated that current national commitments achieve about half of the required emissions cuts, which means that what the nations are committed is half of what is required. And of course, what they will deliver will be even less. So circular economy has the possibility to cover half of the remaining gap, which means that through domino effects, through recovery and reuse, through lifetime extensions, through sharing and service models, through circular and eco-design and digital revolution in platforms, we can cut emissions by 25%. This is a very important contribution, and it's much bigger than the usually 6, 7, or 5% contribution of the waste sector in the global warming emissions. So circular economy is much bigger than waste management, and its contribution could be up to 1/4 of the reduction required. I think this becomes clear if you have a look on the real numbers about waste. This is from Austria. So you can see here in Austria, a person delivers annually roughly 500 kilos of municipal waste. But the total waste arisings, including industrial, construction, demolition, and other types of waste, it's about 5 tons. So municipal waste is 10% of the total waste arisings. But then the annual increase in anthropogenic stocks, it's about 10 tons per year. What are the anthropogenic stocks? It's our goods, our buildings, our infrastructure, our equipment. And we have already roughly 60 tons per capita of resources in landfills. And finally, we have 340 anthropogenic resources in use in goods, buildings, and infrastructure. So if you want to focus on circular economy, you should say that these anthropogenic stocks and the anthropogenic resources in the landfills should be the mines of the future. If you want to think on the long term, in these 340 and 60, 400 tons per capita, there are substantial resources involved that we need to find ways to recover if we want to be able to manage global warming. And this is a huge shift that moves our attention from the narrow focus on the municipal waste management sector to the total view of circular economy and anthropogenic stocks. And I think this is a very necessary step for the sustainability of our societies. Now, instead of conclusions, I would like to focus on this. If we go to a circular economy, what we need is to develop more closed circular loops. But for the loops to be closed, there is a necessity that the loops are clean. They don't have pollutants. They don't have materials that do not fit with the purpose of closing the loop. As an example, if you want to close the aluminium loop, after 2 or 3 times, you face a problem of pollution due to the colors involved in aluminium. So even in aluminium, which is one of the easiest things to recycle in the world, the problem of depollution of the closed loop is important. It's much more important in other materials like plastics, paper, glass, and of course, it's much more important in bio-waste. So we need more closed loops, which means more clean loops. The more clean the loops, the more depollution is required, removal of pollutants. And when we remove the pollutants, what we need is safer and higher capacity of final sinks. Because we cannot remove pollutants without being able to dispose them of safely. So a circular economy, this is my major outcome, and we explain this in the book in details, requires better and much more advanced waste management than the linear one. And if we're going to take an overall conclusion, we have to say that in order to be able to sustain human societies, up to now we knew that it's important to find access to energy and natural resources. Now, after the marine litter and the global warming problems, we know very well that there is another very important conditions for sustainability. To have proper final sinks to receive the emissions in materials from our societies. So it's not enough to have access to natural resources and energy. We need to have enough final sinks for our waste. And this is a bright future and requires a lot of new scientific advances to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Mavropoulos, for your excellent inputs. Next, I would like to call up Dr. Agarwal to give his presentation. Please share your screen.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Mhm. Great, we see it.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's always very difficult to speak after Anthony's, my dear friend. And Anthony has given a complete overview about the circular economy and how the waste is one component out of it and how to achieve it. I'll just share a couple of things, though we have stalwarts of the industry. Masood is there, Ulas is there, so they will be speaking a lot about how the industry is doing in India and how we are tackling various issues related to waste management out here. See, the position of India as compared to other countries is different. And within India also, we started this journey way back in 1994 when we first started thinking about waste management with the Surat pneumonic plague. And still it took 20 years uh, uh, till the time Mr. Modi came to the power in 2014, and he made this waste management as the flagship program, and now it is one of the most important program in the country. So with this background, like why I'm saying this, because with this, lot of opportunities are created in the country, wherein a lot of experiments are done in the recent past, a lot of interventions have taken place, and we are positioned differently now in front of the entire globe as compared to what we were uh, uh, before 2014. So friends, let me just share that still the challenges are there. I'm not taking that as a, I will talk about the challenges later, but let me just talk to you about the opportunities which are available. The journey which we have recently started in 2014 is focusing on Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, that is Clean India Mission. It's a mission mode approach which has taken up by the federal government here with lot of policy framework. The rules are reframed. Now we have set rules for everything, but still landfills are there. ISWA had a program to figure out 50 major dump sites of the world a few years back. But I'm from Jaipur, the pink city, and everyone comes here to see Hawa Mahal. So we have the huge another Hawa Mahal of the waste out there spread over in 20 acres. The Hawa Mahal, which tourists come to see, is in a very, very small place, but this wasteland, the waste landfill is spread over to 20 acres with 2,000 tons of waste going to this landfill every day. It's a dump site, basically, not a landfill. Why? So why the situation is the same today, or it has not improved as desired? So one thing very important where I would like to focus upon is that when we look at the various components, the value chain of, I'll just come to that value chain of the waste management first, wherein from the producer, the waste start, sometimes it is segregated, sometimes it is, mostly it is not in the country, but it is segregated and it goes for the recycling, waste energy, composting, or for some processing. What is happening? We are not, still we are not focusing on doing waste management. Either we are talking about the processing, we are talking about the disposal, and when we are talking about the collection, transportation, or something, we just adapt the models which are there either in the West or practiced by someone. We are going by the illustrations, not by the situation. The models which are in implementation even today are not the context specific or considering the local needs, local situation. So it is still considered as a logistic exercise, particularly when I talk about we talk about the collection and transportation. displacing waste from one place to another and job is over and that is waste management. Whereas it is not. It is not simply a logistic exercise. It has to be considered and viewed as a sustainable development exercise. What is the environmental impact of it? And there we need to have a lot of micro planning involved into it. Our models are still borrowed from the West. So models are good. They have made impact out there. They have changed the environmental conditions out there, or have set best practices in the waste management. But it is not necessary that whatever has changed the situation in the Western world is applicable to the Indian context also. No, it is not. Because the waste in particular, when we talk about the waste, in India, we always say that the language changes after 50 kilometers. But the character of waste, it changes 5 kilometers, or sometimes it is 50 meters. From one colony to another, the waste character changes. So what we have, where we have to focus upon is, we have to have the micro planning. And unless we do the micro planning, we cannot achieve waste management. Another thing which since 2014, a lot of good things have happened. But one thing bad has also happened since then. Earlier, when we started waste management, particularly the collection in the waste management, that was based on the user participation with user fee, contribution of the user fee. So user fee was not only meant to sustain the program, but also was a monitoring tool. But with the current scenario, everything is being funded by the public bodies, urban local bodies. So the participation in the planning, in the finance economy of the waste is least as far as the waste producer is concerned. And we have the old traditional where waste workers were working. I'm from the city where we had a dedicated train devoted to waste management. This train was flying from one end to another end of the city, carrying waste collected from the walled city. So I'm from that city, but that is that's all vanishing with the time. And so when we talk about the circular economy, what is required? It requires resource efficiency at one end, eco-innovations, so that we change it from the linear to the circular. Raw material should again go as a raw material with waste prevention and management, addressing consumption and production of it. Well, sorry. Let us look at the possibilities when we talk about the digitization. When we talk about the digitization within it, these are the things which are in practice even today with most of the industries involved into collection and transportation. Lesser technology is there in the processing and disposal, but yes, we have biometric scanners, IoT sensors on with the waste banks. Then there are different type of sensors, geographical positioning system. We have RFIDs now on the properties and on the waste collection system. Weighbridge has the sensor. Vehicle tracking system is already there for a decade or more. So then all these, but what is the problem? All these are being done in isolation. None of these things are say at none of the places these are integrated. What is required is to integrate all these so that all goes to one analytic platform, and that goes to the user as well as to administrator, manager, or planner. So that is what we need to do. So these are the possibilities wherein we have to integrate all these so as the consumer as well as the manager can use it for better waste management. So what we intend to do, and we are planning, there are several stakeholders when we talk about the waste management out here. They are government bodies, pollution control board, unions, housing societies, NGOs, enterprises, vendors, leader, influencer, waste workers, and all. Everyone is a stakeholder in waste management, because this is the only thing where everything has everyone contributes, everyone produces waste. So virtually everyone is a stakeholder within it, and we use all these systems and engagement mediums for different things. Then we have set of devices and tools which are being used in the waste management. And also, to assist the manpower, what we have to have is 36-degree feedback system, resource tracking system, dashboard analytics, targeting framework, mobile application for power. The problem is, again, the problem is all these things are done in isolation. All these stakeholders, again, are not integrated. They are not having a collective approach towards the problem. Everything is being done in isolation. So that need to be integrated if we really want to achieve the waste management. So that all the data collected from all the sensors and the devices that go to one side and analyze, mining, deep context mining takes place, and it goes to route optimization, manpower optimization, operational efficiency, cost reduction. And in the context of COVID, I would like to just mention out here, it has become more empirical. So we have to give more thrust on this, because Mr. Masood Malik will agree with me, because he is one who is working at, on the pan-India or global level with the waste management, and he must be facing all these challenges. The waste is not the same now. The character has changed, the quantity has changed, the frequency has changed. Everything has changed post-COVID. In the lockdown period, it was different. In the unlock phase 1, it was different. And now we are having unlock phase 2 in the country, and the character and quantity both are now changed. So the waste quantity has drastically reduced. We have the same resources to collect these things, so we are generating the same amount of carbon footprints out there. And what is happening? The waste has, the quantity has gone down to almost 60%. At some places it is even 40%. The quantity has gone down. So how to handle these things? The waste plants, waste to energy plants, or waste to compost plant, which Ramkey and other companies are having, what to do with those? They are installed with certain capacity, and they will have the dearth of raw material available, because that quantity is not produced anymore. With this COVID and what we forecast here as epidemiologists here and public health professionals, that this trend will go on for another couple of years. We'll not have the same amount of same quantity of waste generated by the human being. We'll have the reduced, we'll definitely have the reduced quantity of waste in at least for another 2 years or more. So because all the social events have gone, commercial activities have gone down, and the lifestyle pattern has also changed drastically. I'll not, so my concerns are two. That is the brighter side where we have the opportunity. But what is happening? Still the picture is not that rosy. We have about 2 million rec pickers. You call them micro entrepreneurs, you call them informal sector, you may call anything, but they are there. This is a conservative estimate which we have, and we have nearly 500,000 such workers working in Delhi itself. And out of those, 20 to 25% are children under the age of although we have Child Labor Protection Act, we have other stringent laws, but still they are working. We need to think about it, that how the waste management will mitigate this problem. A lot of deaths are taking place, a lot of injuries are taking place. We have to bring a smile on the face of these workers, these children. We have to have some kind of alternative strategy wherein they can feed themselves. These are different hazards which are there. I always focus on that, see, talking about technology, talking about waste man, talking about everything is very good. But how about my worker, the waste worker, the public health worker, who is involved into collection, who is involved at processing site, who is involved at the landfill site? At whose cost they are sacrificing their life? Still, we have to have some technology wherein we can take care of their lives. Just because I have limited time, so we, Masoji, I would definitely seek your attention to this, because this is something which is very close to my heart. I'm a public health medical professional. See, these occupational exposures to the workers which are involved into waste industry, that is real, that creates a miserable situation. It's a pity situation for these workers. And you know, if these workers are not there, we will not survive. Whether the corona is there or not, COVID is there or not, any other pandemic is there or not, their absence itself will create the biggest pandemic over the globe. So we have to think about these workers now. You know, these workers, they work even in the most critical situation. They work in this most difficult situation these days, and they are exposed to heavy workloads, bioaerosol, volatile, and with the corona also, they are exposed to many such things. These are the risks which are involved. Health risk to the workers, musculoskeletal, almost all are suffering, dermal, almost all are suffering, respiratory diseases. And you know, I would like to focus on this respiratory here. So if anyone has any respiratory disease, their vulnerability to the COVID fatality is much, much higher than the normal human being, because the lungs are weak here, and once the lungs are weak here, they are more prone, they are more vulnerable, and that will go as comorbidity, and they will have a risk. So they have 5.6, almost 6 times more risk of suffering occupational injuries, and 1.5 times more risk of suffering occupational diseases. These are the major injuries reported. So what we have to do, let us do something for them, at least devise some innovative technologies which the common worker can use. We have to build their capacity. We have to have personal protective equipment. We have started using this cover-all type of PPE for these workers. Somehow I missed the face shield. All the workers definitely need face shields besides all these things, and only the apron or sari or salwar suit will not work. They have to have coverall, and we should have, in another discussion where Aditi was also there, I mentioned this point, and I would like the attention of Anthony, Masood, and everyone out here, whosoever. See, we have SOPs for everyone, but we do not have SOPs for the waste workers. So why can't we have some SOPs wherein these workers can work safely with better health and provide us the better health? So now, to manage this, you need to have training, better equipment and clothing with personal protection, and effective occupational health program. So when government is working on the intervention part, this dimension has to be looked after by the industry, NGOs, and other academic institutions. Now, with the new normal, we should devise something wherein we have less human interface, more segregation at source, appropriate safety gears, customized methodology, and also should focus more on decentralized sustainable waste management. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much for your valuable insights, Dr. Agrawal. We'll go on to questions much later. I will like to call Dr. Awasthi now to present next. So if you stop sharing your screen, she's going to present after you. Dr. Agrawal, yeah, great, thank you.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, but just we only see your desktop, but we do see your screen. So yeah. Now we see it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Aditi. And first of all, good afternoon to everyone who are present in this discussion. And I'm extremely thankful to this group to allow me to present my thoughts and ideas which are related to waste management sector. Anthony has set the stage by talking about the global perspective, and Dr. Vivek Agarwal very much emphasized on the human angle and the environmental perspectives. I would talk specifically on the technical issues and the challenges which are being faced in the waste management sector and how these challenges could be overcome if we have to move towards the circular economy. So very quickly, I'll go to next slide. Why it's not moving? Okay. So very quickly, I'll talk about the reality of our waste in terms of India's population, which is nearly 1.4 billion. Anthony just mentioned that in this lockdown, there are 3 billion people across the whole world who are in lockdown, and our population is almost 50% of that. 35% is the urban population, and the kind of waste which we are generating on annual basis is being estimated as around 100 million metric ton per annum. And this is only urban India, which is generating this quantity of waste. Rural India is generating another 60 to 670 million metric ton of waste on annual basis. And as per our Central Pollution Control Board report, which was published in 2018-19, it is estimated or assessed that 36% of our waste which is being generated, this is municipal solid waste I'm talking about, only 36% is treated, and rest of it is disposed either in the dump sites, low-lying lands, or water bodies. So this is the kind of system which we have in our country at the moment. So it is definitely very clear to us that we are having this linear economy because it's only 36% of our waste which we are treating and rest is just being disposed of. Why it is happening? I mean, is there anything to do with the kind of waste which we have? Absolutely not. Our more than 50% of waste is a wet organic matter and the remaining 50% is the dry matter. Whereas, I mean, it has some inert component also, but most of the waste has the recovery potential of 80 to 90%. And a planning commission report, which was published in 2014 by Government of India, has mentioned that the non-treated component of our waste, which is from the urban India only, it has the potential to produce nearly 450 megawatt of power, 1.3 million cubic meter of biogas on daily basis, and around 5.4 million metric ton of compost on annual basis. So there is a huge potential or the gap which is still there, which can be addressed if we have to move from linear economy to circular economy as far as waste management sector is concerned. Dr. Agarwal mentioned about one of the very ambitious program which was initiated by Government of India, Swachh Bharat Mission. Apart from that, there were many other programs which have been initiated by our government, like Smart City Mission or the policies for waste recycling, solid waste management rules, e-waste management rules, plastic waste management rule, construction demolition waste management rules. So the policies are there, some initiatives are also there, but still we have a very long way to go. So what are the challenges? Dr. Agarwal, he mentioned about the challenges, I would say in holistic manner, and I'll touch upon some of the very, I would say, technical challenges and at the micro level in terms of what is happening in our system when we are talking about the challenges if we have to really achieve the circular economy. Segregation at source, segregation of waste, because we have the mixed waste, we have the organic component as well as the dry component with us. So if we are able to do segregation at source, it solves our problem to a great extent. And this is the mandatory requirement of our solid waste management rules also. But in reality, most of the cities in our country, they have not been able to achieve this. Like we talk about 100% segregation, which needs to be achieved, but in reality, it is not even 20% or 25%. Of course, there are some good examples like a city of Panjim in Goa, or there is Chandigarh, which is the Union Territory of India. These cities have been able to do good segregation. There are some other examples also, like Pune is there, and Bhopal and Indore are also doing segregation. But still, we have a very long way to go, considering that we have more than 4,000 cities in our country. So even if 50 or 100 odd cities are able to do segregation at 100% level, still we have like more than 70-80% of waste which is not being segregated. Collection and transportation. Here, the situation is still under control in terms of like 70 to 80% of our waste the municipalities have been able to collect, but the benchmark for us is being set as 100%. If we really want to achieve the circular economy, or we want to do the recycling or reusage or treatment of this waste, we'll first have to collect the entire waste which is being generated. So that benchmark is still not there. In terms of waste processing, Dr. Agarwal also pointed out that we are still grappling with this issue of finding out that what could be the best technology for us. And of course, because of the various different characteristics of waste in different cities, because of their different geographical conditions, because of their different population density and all other various features, one technology cannot work for all the cities, same for all the cities together. Every city has to find its own ways and means to find out that which technology could work best for it. And it's not that the technologies are not good. We have a lot of technologies which are available there for the processing of waste, and all technology, each and every technology in itself is a good technology. The issue is that we have to decide at the city level that which technology could work best for us. I'll give you a classic example of Konkan division in Maharashtra, where we did some study in the year 2017. And the Konkan division has almost 44 urban local bodies, with the variation of some large cities generating waste in the range of 300 to 400 tons, and some cities which are generating waste in the range of 5 ton or 10 tons. Now, these smaller cities, they had earlier under Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewable Mini Mission, they got the grant and they implemented the projects for composting in their cities. But after 5 years, when these cities were visited and the plants were seen, so they were all in a very bad shape and dysfunctional. The reason being that that particular belt of the Konkan it receives very high rainfall. And in such high rainfall conditions, composting does not work effectively. And so they could not operate the projects and they just stopped working there. And of course, there was the problem related to the sale of compost. So the end product, its quality, and in terms of finding suitable buyers or consumer for this is another issue or the challenge which is being faced all over our country when you are setting up a plant. Then comes the question of zero landfilling. If you have to achieve circular economy, so the point is that you want to utilize all your waste and you do not want anything to go to landfill. In fact, our solid waste management rules also state that all the biological component of waste should be processed, all the recyclable component of waste should be recovered, and it is only the inert component which should be sent to the landfill. But in reality, as I just mentioned to you in the beginning, most of our waste is going to the dump sites. They're not even scientific landfill. And even if you want to have a landfill, land is also a major issue in most of our mega cities. There are many smart ways of handling municipal solid waste if we want to overcome these challenges, which have just been mentioned by Dr. Vivek Agarwal. One of the smart ways which I would like to emphasize on in terms of what kind of system could work for the cities, whether it is a centralized system or a decentralized system. I would say it is a combination of both which can work well for a city. I'll give you an example of state of Kerala. State of Kerala has almost 93 urban local bodies, and the total quantity of waste which is being generated there, combining all the ULBs, is somewhere around 4,000 tons. So that means there are just 5-6 main municipal corporations generating waste more than 300 tons, and rest all the ULBs, 86 ULBs, are generating waste in the range of 20 to 30 tons, or some ULBs are even generating 5 tons of waste. The state government of Kerala, around 6-7 years ago, they developed a policy where they decided that the wet waste is to be treated by the generator at household level, and then they provided the funds to all the ULBs of the state to provide the composters, which is like pipe composting, bucket composting, or the biogas plant at household level to treat their wet waste. And they decided that the ULBs will not collect the wet waste from these ULBs because the generator will take care of its waste. Whereas the ULBs, as per the Municipal Act, are responsible for the collection, transportation, treatment, and disposal of the waste. And they will be only collecting the dry component, which is the recyclable component of the waste. The system has been there for the last 5-6 years. And when the flood occurred around 2 years ago in Kerala, everybody could see that the whole state was full of waste. If we assume that all the households are treating their waste, their biological component of the waste, which incidentally in Kerala is almost 60 to 70%, then ideally there should not be any waste in the state. But we found so much of waste lying there. That means the system could not work. In fact, when we talked to the generators, to the ULBs about the main problem which they are facing, they all mentioned about the waste management. So this solution did not work for them. And recently, the state government decided to go ahead with the regional waste treatment facility. 6 regional waste treatment facilities they plan to implement. But again, in the last 2 years, they have been able to award work only for one project. So why I am putting this forward to all of you is to basically understand that the planning is so important when we have to find out some good solution for our waste. And one solution may not work in all the cases, and it has to be a combination of both. And of course, the involvement of local community is very important if we have to do the waste management in effective manner. I would touch upon the few challenges which I thought would be interesting to share with all of you, specifically linked to the processing of the waste. I mean, I had observed during my visit to various cities and while working with the small scale cities, I mean, till date, we have worked with more than 500 or 600 small cities generating waste in the range of 10 to 100 tons on daily basis. And we found out that even if they have the access to the grant which is being provided to them by the state government and the central government through the Swachh Bharat mission, and they have come up with a good infrastructure for the processing of the waste, but they are not able to make their project sustainable because of one particular reason, that either the quality of the end product is not good, they have not been able to produce good quality compost or the RDF, or some, if they have material recovery facility, then the recyclables, they are not able to recover in a proper manner. And they're not able to sell if the product is of good quality, even if they manage to get a good product, but they're not able to sell it very effectively in the market. And as a result, there is huge accumulation of their end product in their plants, which eventually leads to the closure of these plants. So I just thought that if we could have some digital platform where the linkage could be established between the producer and consumers. This is specifically for the small towns where they have small plants and do not have access to the whole market, and they are not very much aware, or their exposure to the market is very minimal. This digital platform can actually help them to connect themselves to the consumers, to the market which is there, and they should be able to sell their products in a very effective manner. could also be in the form of a digital exchange platform, like once we had for our renewable energy, which was established by Government of India. It would be a CDM kind of exchange platform where our compost or the recyclable products which are being produced by these material recovery facilities of small size can be put on sale and the buyers can pick it up from there. Because we definitely know that the demand is there, it is just that the linkage between the producer and consumer is absent. Another possible another challenge which I thought could be addressed through making use of our technology is that we found out that I mean there are more than 4,000 cities at present which are very small in size, and most of them they have the problems related to their institutional capacity and technical expertise. There are many cases like in Kerala I talked about, in Konkan I talked about, then in many cities there are the problems where the systems are there, but they still grapple with the issues of like how to go about it. I'll again give you example of Maharashtra, where the state government, they decided to provide grant to all of their more than 200 ULBs, and through the state government and central government funding of Swachh Bharat mission, and the good grant was made available to them in the year 2018, by the mid of 2018, and the amount was also transferred to their account. But till date, it's like more than 1.5 years have passed, and only out of 200 ULBs, only 60 ULBs have been able to spend 50% of their grant, which is made available to them. So they just don't know about the utilization of this grant, which is made available to them. So if some kind of expertise or help could be provided to them in terms of guidance, in terms of assistance of the various industrial experts. So a digital collaborative platform for knowledge sharing could be formed or created, where one can have access to this the experts who may not necessarily come physically to their place to to be with them or to spend all time with them, but their input may be required in a very minor level or at a very minor level, or for few days. There they can provide this kind of assistance to them, and their problem can be resolved in a very smooth manner. Some of the examples which come to my mind, similar kind of examples of various other sectors, could be like Practo. In India, we have this app where the medical practitioners are available to give consultancy to the people through online system. So something like that, if could be developed, like in our education systems, also in our educational sector, also we have this system where the online, training or the assistance is provided to the students. So something like that, if could be developed in waste management sector also, that could be a great help to the ULBs and the local operators and the managers who are handling their solid waste management systems in the cities. And this could help us to move a few steps closer towards the circular economy. This is all which I wanted to mention and share with all of you in the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Awasthi, for your fantastic inputs. I'll move on quickly actually to Mr. Malik's presentation. So we are ready for you. If you can share your screen. Dr. Awasthi, you should stop sharing yours.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I stopped the video. Okay.
Yeah, now it's done.
Okay.
Mr. Malik, we can't hear you. Yeah, we can see your screen now slowly.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can hear you well. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And a very good afternoon, everyone. I do have a few slides here that I will very quickly rush through because I'm mindful of the fact that we should have a few minutes for Q&A towards the end, and we are coming on top of the hour very soon. I think a lot of the challenges that lie ahead of us, both from a sustainability standpoint and in general, but particularly from a circular economy standpoint, have been articulated upon very well by the preceding speakers. I will try to share some experiences and some experiments that are underway, and hopefully that demonstrate that whilst the challenges are huge, And whilst we have a very long way to go, there are sustainable models available, and there is change happening. And that change is not just at a small scale. It's happening at a meaningful level and at substantial scale. I come from an organization that's called Ramki Enviro. Ramki Enviro works across the environmental value chain. Started out 25 years ago as a pure play waste management company, and progressively over the last 25 years, it has evolved into more of a resource management and sustainability solutions company. Started in India, but now is present in Southeast Asia, Middle East, North America, and in India, about 65 plus facilities, and I'm a very proud member of a workforce that includes more than 20,000 people now. First off, before I actually go into the presentation, a couple of very important points were made around the health and safety of our colleagues, especially at a time like this. And I wanted to touch upon that before I go on talking about technology and Internet of Things, etc. Yes, it is absolutely true, and that's a significant challenge, ensuring that these, for us, there are 20,000 people who are out there for us every day, and in very challenging and difficult circumstances. I'm very happy to state with all of you that as on date, not one of them has been affected with COVID in such a way that they have required medical treatment. We have several cases across several geographies of people who have tested positive, but not even one who's required medical treatment. It has not been easy to ensure availability of PPE. It's not been easy to ensure that across all our locations, we are able to maintain work practices, social distancing, sanitation, and disinfection. But that priority has come above all for us. And I'm quite hopeful that with the support of our supply chain and the support of our business partners, we will continue ensuring that all our people who are out there as frontline workers remain safe and remain healthy. Moving on, we've talked about, I'm just using a graphic that builds upon the classic butterfly, as it's known as, which is the circular economy model. And I was basically going to talk about what solutions are being tried at scale today. We all talked about the fact that unless these solutions come into play in practice, unless they come into play at scale, and unless they address the problems where they are, which means where most of the world's population is, where most of the world's sustainability challenges lie, where the health impacts and the risks lie, which is the emerging economies. So they have to work at scale in emerging economies. And I just wanted to share some experiments and some ideas and some experiences with you. When we look at various aspects of sustainability and how circular is our resource loops, I just wanted to share some facts with you. Whilst we may be known as the largest waste management player in India and one of the largest in Asia, it is also a fact that we are currently operating the largest waste to energy facility in India, with the largest plastic recycler in India. We have commissioned the first artificial intelligence enabled material recovery facility in the Middle East. We are about to commission the first marine waste recycling facility in the Middle East. Not just when it comes to traditional definitions of municipal waste, we have the largest installed capacity for recycling, construction and demolition waste in India, from where we may actually make construction products. We are the largest producer of RDF and compost in India. We are the largest EPR services provider to corporates. We make from our biomedical waste, after the disinfection is done, we actually are able to make eco-friendly bags out of the recycled waste. We are in the process of building India's first integrated metals recovery refinery. This is a precious metals recovery refinery. We are actually not just converting e-waste to precious metals, we are also repairing them and making refurbished products. So I think there is circularity at play. And I'm happy to state that with time, this is happening more and more at scale. To illustrate that, I wanted to share some case studies with you. So I'll share 3 case studies very, very quickly of what we are doing to try and integrate technology into circular economy solutions at scale in our core business, which is waste management, and also where technology is coming to aid to transform ourselves as an organization internally, where our processes and our solutions are becoming more robust by integration of technology. So the first case study I wanted to share with you is this particular image. This has already been commissioned earlier this year. This is the first artificial intelligence enabled material recovery facility in Dubai. It's called FARS. It is currently handling about 1,200 tons, but it has an installed capacity of about 1,600 tons per day of municipal solid waste processing. It can handle any kind of mixed waste. You put in mixed waste at one end, and out comes segregated waste. Now, not just segregated waste. This is a facility without any human intervention, segregates metals from non-metals. You've heard of that before. It segregates plastics by type of plastic. So it knows what is PP, what is PVC, what is PE, etc. Once it has segregated by the type of plastic, it can also segregate that same plastic lot by color. So at the end of this, you will actually get waste that is sorted not just by type, but also by color. Now, one of the key challenges in recycling and one of the key clean loop challenges, or the depollution of closed loops that one of the previous speakers talked about, is this ability to segregate not just by type, but also by its condition, also by its other characteristics like color. And this, I'm very happy to say, is a facility that does that. The more waste it processes, it has machine learning in it, the better it becomes. It has one of the highest yields that we have experienced anywhere in the world from a fully automated material recovery facility. So whilst we don't have a facility like this in India yet, I'm happy to state that 1,600 tons per day of capacity is not a small capacity. Yes, it is true. I mean, Ramki manages about 6 or 7 million tons of waste in a year in India alone. But we are sure that we'll be able to bring such solutions to India in the near future. One such solution that we have actually brought to India, this is a facility that's under development here in Hyderabad itself. This is India's first integrated precious metals refinery, where completely automated, sensor-driven, and not just normal sensors, but high-end sensors, which actually can measure metal concentration inside a solid matrix, like X-ray fluorescence sensors, etc. Sensor-driven precious metals refinery. Mixed electronic waste goes in from one side, and you are able to get purified metal concentrated coming out of the other. You have separate recovery for gold, separate recovery for silver, separate recovery for a number of other rare earth metals, which are so important from the industry 4.0 standpoint, from ensuring that these metals can go back into the economy, and solutions such as electric vehicles, etc., become more prevalent and remain more sustainable. So this is the facility that later this year will be commissioning here in Hyderabad. This is an example from Singapore. We call it RVAC. This is our it's a completely man-free, sensor-driven pneumatic waste collection system. And these are just some images of the next time you're in Singapore and you visit, you know, the marina or one of the other iconic buildings. You should be proud of the fact that there's an Indian company that is providing these solutions where waste is actually directly coming from the various points of generation. It is getting, primary sorting is happening automatically, and then it is completely underground through a pneumatic system. It is getting held, compressed, and then transported in an extremely efficient manner. This is another example of a solution that is currently being implemented at scale. And finally, some other examples, not just in terms of technology deployment in our waste management facilities, but in our internal operations, how we construct these facilities. Today, we are trying out smart liners. Smart liners are liners that have the ability to check themselves for integrity. And if there is an integrity issue or if there's a potential for leak, the liners can actually report because of the embedded sensors and which are essentially conductivity sensors. So the use of smart liners in landfills, lagoons, and ponds to ensure that a landfill remains safe for the environment and maintains the structural integrity that is expected from it. We're trying out smart locking solutions so that vehicles, waste-carrying vehicles, cannot be opened where they're not supposed to be opened. There is a designated point of collection, then there's a designated point of offloading where it is to be treated and managed in a particular way. Anywhere in between, the lock will not open. And that's a solution that we are deploying in India at scale. Chain of custody, blockchain based, so that every time from the point of collection, Ramki collects more than just municipal waste. We do hazardous waste, we do biomedical waste, we do a number of other waste streams, all of them in very large quantities and at a lot of scale. So ensuring that we use blockchain technology to make sure that from the point of collection to the point of transport, to the point of transfer, and then eventual processing, treatment and disposal, there is a chain of custody that cannot be altered, that remains auditable and integral. And finally, to Dr. Awasthi's point, reducing the human intervention when it comes to even health and safety. We now are deploying cameras and which have artificial intelligence and video analytics in it, which can automatically recognize whether a person is wearing the right kind of mask, whether the person is wearing a helmet, or whether the other protective gear is there. There are cameras and algorithms that are looking at distances between people to see, are they working too close? Is social distancing being maintained? And it's not just within the waste processing facilities. It could be just a canteen as well. People sitting too close together, clustered together. Now, the dependence on human interface there is getting reduced by the deployment of such solutions. As time passes, I'm very happy to state to all of you that these solutions are going to become more and more mainstream, and therefore the circularity challenges that were being talked about and the implementation challenges that were being talked about, I'm sure that like Ramki, there are other organizations around the world which are working very hard every day to deploy these solutions at scale. There is an interesting aspect that has been brought up, which is a lot of people talk to me about the fact that, okay, you know what, when we land at Changi, we know that Ramki cleans Changi, but now there are robots who are doing that cleaning. So which means that when the workers which were there earlier cleaning the best airport in the world are no longer doing so, and the robots have taken away their jobs. And this question, which is the impact of basically technology integration, especially robotics, and other aspects of Industry 4.0 on employment is being talked about. I'm very happy to state that given the scale at which we are currently operating, we have immense headroom for growth. I think Dr. Seema talked about the fact that whilst a lot of India's waste is getting collected, only maybe a quarter is getting processed. So for every one person who potentially has to be reassigned because there's a robot coming in to do one particular task, there are 100 new opportunities that are opening up in the waste management field, just because there is so much more waste management to be done. And I'm just talking about waste management. The moment you take this into resource management and resource recovery, you know, that another 25,000 jobs on top of the 20,000 that we currently have, we see a demand for. And therefore, I think sustainability would also mean skilling up of these people and ensuring that they are deployed. Just like we're deploying technology and these solutions at scale, we're also deploying human capital, which is duly trained and empowered at scale in a manner that's rewarding. I just wanted to close this presentation with an image of, this is our command and control center here in Hyderabad. All our locations in India, we have probably 60, 65 locations which are currently live. Their operations, their compliance, their environmental impact in terms of emissions, etc., all is being monitored remotely. We have a campaign going on that celebrates each of these people who are out there, and I just wanted to, on their behalf, assure you that not just Ramki, I'm sure many other organizations like us are out there for you. And we are confident that we will see this pandemic through. Thank you and stay safe.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Malik, for such an inspiring presentation. You're doing everything that we're talking about in this webinar. So I see a lot of interest in the topic, and we will go into deep dive sessions. I apologize about the time already. We have crossed it by 2 minutes, but I would like to give the floor to our last speaker. We might take the questions offline. Mr. Palekar, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Aditi. I'm just putting my screen. I have very few slides.
Great. Yeah,
I think so. Let me put it on. So good afternoon. Okay. You know, my earlier speakers, the very knowledgeable ones, they have given a lot of input to you already in terms of the challenges, in terms of how things should be, how things they are, and how things they should be, and that is something which has to come in the coming years. What I'm going to talk about is really moving into the circular economy from where we are today. So today, you know, a lot of the activities that we do, it's linear, and we have to move to the circular, and that can be achieved by two technologies, according to me. One is called recycling technology, and another is zero waste technology. In recycling technology, you recycle within your premise, and in a zero waste technology, you are exchanging the waste as a resource with someone else. And that's how you don't allow any waste to get generated at all. You are producing only byproducts. You are not generating waste. And these byproducts have markets, and therefore it does not get into the environment as waste and cause the pollution problem. So I'm going to discuss something very, very much related to this concept with all of you. I'm just giving you some examples of circular economy, how they can operate. For example, we have society, and society generates combustible waste like, let's say, RDF or plastic waste, which is non-recyclable, multi-layered, etc., etc. This can be sent to the cement manufacturer as a fuel source. The cement, which, or it can also go to power generation, and you can generate power out of it. In the cement manufacture, You may be generating some cement, and you may also generate, say, some gases which are polluting, right? Maybe sulfur dioxide, or maybe some other acids, gases. You can convert cement for construction. You can convert the sulfur dioxide to gypsum, or you can convert to fertilizer here, ammonium sulfate, ammonium nitrate fertilizer from SOx and NOx. Then you can utilize that in the agricultural activities, and then you can send it to the society back for use. You may have biodegradable waste, which should generate compost. You can send it for agricultural use. You can send it back to the society. You may have, let's say, the SOx that gets converted into gypsum. The gypsum can be used in construction work. It's good for the society. It can be recycled back. You may have C&D waste, Mr. Masood was talking about. The C&D waste can be converted into aggregates and sand. The sand can then be utilized, that aggregate and sand, for construction activity, and then you are sending it back. You may have CO2 emissions from the cement manufacturer, from the power plants, etc., etc. These CO2 emissions can be converted into algae. They can be utilized as fuel source in the cement and power generation. You can also generate chemicals from it, and from chemicals, you can generate products, polymers, plastics, everything that you want, and then you can put it back for the use to the society. You may have electronic waste. Electronic waste, you can recover plastics, you can recover metal, you can put it back again. This is what is circular economy. Basically, what we are trying to do is whatever is getting as a waste material in my premise, I'm trying to see if there's someone else who can make use of it. And what does he want actually? I try to start looking at that and then produce a material which is acceptable to him. That means the market, and the market starts growing. So that's the concept that which we are looking at. So if you look at wastes, for example, they look in the manner that I have shown here in the photographs. You have, some waste streams which are stacked up like that. You may have some sludges, you may have some plastic waste, you may have some chunk, you may have tire waste, you may have solvents, you may have aqueous waste, all kinds of waste. All this waste, the way it looks, it is a waste material. But if it is converted into the material which I am showing on the right hand bottom corner, it becomes a resource. And in fact, I had opportunity of doing that work of converting different kinds of waste as resource and utilize them in cement as a fuel and raw material. And in fact, there's a huge success story there in India where we have been able to, as a company, as a cement company that I was working for, ACC, we were able to take the waste materials from zero in about 10 years time to about 500,000 tons. And we also promoted this concept in the country where large amount of waste, today I think it's more than about 4 million tons of waste which are getting utilized as resources in cement manufacture. And I'm very proud to tell you now that we are the 5th largest cement industry in the world who are consuming waste as resources. So that's the power of utilizing waste by converting them into resource. So the bottom line here is that wastes are waste the way they are. If you convert that into a resource, which means it has got a specific property, certain quality consideration, which are required for the application that is intended in the market, then you have a byproduct synergy. And this concept is called as industrial symbiosis. So what we have done is we have conceived of an initiative which is called as industrial symbiosis for circular economy. The short form is ISCE. Now, why there is a need for ISCE? In manufacturing, the mandate is you should be able to control emissions, effluents, and wastes, because those are the ones which are causing environmental concerns. So earlier to 1980, there was a voluntary control. Only some people, some good corporates, good companies who felt that they should not put pollution into the environment, they started doing controls. But after the Bhopal tragedy and after several other tragedies which were seen, there the mandates have come in the form of acts, rules for waste. And then in 2020, I mean 2016 actually, the pattern has changed for waste management. Now we are trying to see how we can utilize waste, and this stringency is becoming bigger and bigger. And in the process, what we are envisaging now is that after this pandemic, the thing would be towards zero waste. What Mr. Antonis was talking about is that we should be moving in a direction where there's no waste absolutely to be put into the environment. So how can we achieve it? So the only way we can achieve it is that if we are able to conceive of processes where there is zero waste to come out of. And that's where the industrial symbiosis becomes a very, very critical and important aspect. So what is required? The industrial symbiosis will generate new applications, totally new applications. It may generate new products, or it may generate new processes. So either, these processes will be there already which have to be adapted, or they may have to be developed in future so that we are able to utilize them for converting waste into resources for use by someone else. This is going to require a large amount of research also, because what is not present today as a application, I think needs to be researched out. So those are the opportunities for research. It's also going to create environment networks for business, where, in earlier practices, we were looking at only my product customer base as an outsider, or my resource base as as something which is coming inside my premises. But now we have to go much beyond. If I'm generating some kind of a waste, which let's say I'm a chemical industry, I'm generating something which is useful, let's say in space, I may have to start looking around to see whether I can get hold of that market which is there in the space space industry, and then I should offer that, adapt to it, etc., etc. So it's going to generate new networks. So when we are talking about complex thing which is going to happen in days to come, what you need is platforms and tools which are digitized, which are based with artificial intelligence, which are based with big data capabilities, etc., etc. And that's where we have designed India's first digital platform for this particular application. It's a unique platform-based marketplace and innovation hub for developing secondary resources through symbiosis. And artificial intelligence has been embedded into that. And this is a co-founded initiative of a company called ThinkStep India. It's a Spera company. Earlier, it was a German company, and that has been taken over by Spera from US, and me as Ulhas Parlikar. So this is a joint co-founded initiative where we are trying to make use of this digital platform. And through this platform, we are trying to build those networks, build those capabilities for looking of different ways in which a waste can be converted into byproducts and utilized, and a market can be developed for that. So it cannot happen, just by thinking. It requires a lot of expertise around. So for this, in this particular platform, we are building capability in terms of having strategic panels, then technology partners and domain experts who have knowledge base to see how one waste from one industry segment can be a possible input for another industry segment. So these domain experts who have knowledge of their respective areas, they can be consulted, they can be, putting some ideas into the front. And then if it requires, let's say, interventions from the technology point of view, from research point of view, from market point of view, from commercial point of view, or from policy point of view, we will be trying to handhold that and see that, the whole thing emerges into a successful venture. So currently, what we have done is we are building this database. We have put about 5,000 resources already into this database, and we have built some 150 synergies wherein we know that this byproduct, this waste can be converted into byproduct, and this has a potential for market applications in different locations. And this data we have collected from about 2,000 industry sites from their published literature like the sustainability report, etc., etc. And that is something which is acting as a catalyst for people to start looking at the synergy of converting waste into byproduct. And I believe that every waste stream that someone is producing, it has a potential, whether it is in liquid phase, gaseous phase, or solid or sludge. And all that can be converted into a useful material. It only requires some amount of technical input, and then you are there. Unfortunately, as designers, as engineers, we have never looked at waste to convert it into byproducts. We have always looked at waste as managing in a way that it is dumped somewhere, or it is treated and dumped somewhere. We are not interested in that. We are trying to see how we can create a resource value out of that, and how we can replace the natural resource that currently being practiced or utilized in the manufacturing activity. So objective is that we should replace this natural capital that we have with this waste material. So we don't start mining the lands, but we start mining the waste areas or waste generating sites. And what Antonis was talking about, that almost about 400 tons per capita is available as a resource, and how we can start utilizing that kind of a material as a resource in different industry segments. So the unique features and benefits of this ISCE is explore new opportunities, innovations, and potential collaborations on secondary resource utilization among industries, cost reduction, revenue generation, and environmentally sound, sustainable, while moving towards zero waste circular economy, dynamic cloud technology-based artificial intelligence features it has got, and privacy, security of data, transaction, communication, etc. They are built into it because software capabilities have reached to that level. So I thought I should kind of, share this particular initiative with you, and I'll be happy to, provide any inputs that you may have on this particular subject. So thank you very much for giving me this time. I'll be very pleased to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Palekar. And I would like to thank all the panelists for such a fantastic job and all the presentations. We don't have time to go into questions. We've actually overshot our time limits, but that's okay, because there's so much interest, and what we've realized is that we have to go into deep dives into some of the topics. So there is going to be a Q&A post on the LinkedIn page. You must have seen that on the chat box. You can go in there, put your questions, and we will answer them slowly but surely. So because of time limits, we can't go into tremendous detail here. But I'd like to end today's webinar by asking all speakers to give just a very brief 30-second concluding statement about take-home messages for the participants from this webinar, and how the waste management sector can be a positive force right now, especially because we are dealing with a global pandemic and everybody around the world is suffering. So I would like to start with Mr. Mavropoulos, give him 30 seconds to give a few keywords, a nice message to you all.
Thank you very much, Aditi. I think it was a very interesting webinar, and I also learned a lot, and I was impressed by the progress achieved in some of the sectors in India and the presentations. What I want to say very briefly is simple like that. We have a lot of problems in front of us, but we are also in a unique era. Although we are running very fast against the limits of our natural systems, the fourth industrial revolution gives us an opportunity to rebalance our world. And the waste sector is in a unique position, because the waste sector is directly linked with the daily lives of billions of people. It's a sector with well-proven technologies, and the sector where public-private partnerships are working for many, many years. All these fields make the waste sector the perfect field to test and apply the fourth industrial revolution with criterion, the social and environmental benefit. And I think this is something we all need to try. We have a lot of good examples today. And my point is that these good examples should be generalized and become the new normal, and not the innovative approaches. Thank you very much for this special webinar.
Thank you, Mr. Mavropoulos. It was a pleasure to have you. Dr. Agarwal, 30 seconds for you.
I'll just say that what I mentioned during my presentation, Ivan, technology is important, that need to be integrated, synchronized to benefit community at large, but focusing on the waste workers who are providing us the cleaner environment and livable environment with least human interface. That's what I want to convey.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Dr. Awasthi, please.
Okay, so I'll first of all thank you everyone for this such a wonderful session, and I have also learned so much from the speaker, especially Mr. Parlikar, the kind of the platform which he mentioned. This is what I was actually thinking, and so what a nice presentations by everyone, and I have just one thing to say, that though we have a lot of challenges, but as a country, we should not forget that we are such a huge country. I mean, I just read somewhere that we are as big as 38 countries of Europe. So the challenge is really huge. And we have been able to identify our challenges. And we are, of course, learning from our mistakes. We are evolving. And I'm sure that the day will come soon where we will also be proud to say that, yes, we have achieved our circular economy, and we are in that phase where we can act as a country, as a showcase to the whole world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Awasthi, for your positive words. Moving on to Mr. Malik. Some nice words from you.
Yeah, I will just say that, someone once said that we must never let a crisis go waste. And so what we do as environmental professionals, as resource managers and waste managers, has never been more important than it is today. And therefore, let us use this momentum collectively, and let's begin a journey back to that balance, to that circularity, to that sustainability that we all came into this profession looking for. This is our opportunity. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Mr. Malik. Moving on to Mr. Parlikar.
Yes, the most important thing I feel in today's situation and in years to come is that we have to start changing our outlook towards waste. We should be looking at it as resource. And I've seen how things wonderfully change. Many times somebody came and told me that I have a gas, and I don't know what to do with it. And I said, yes, we can convert it into something else. And it started working. Managing sustainably CFCs, HFCs. Worldwide, it was not being done with that efficiency which we were able to do, just because we could see the waste in a different way as a resource. So my submission to everyone is, please don't look at waste as waste. Try to see what resource value it has got, and then start looking for who has requirement for that kind of resource, and then start building that bridge so that it becomes a useful byproduct. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. With very positive messages. The recording of this webinar, along with other webinars, are going to be available on IFAT India's channel, and as well as ISWA's YouTube channel. So you can always access it there. Presentations in PDF formats will be shared. I will get permissions to share them, and it will be mailed out to you. I'd like to now take a moment to say thanks so much to the speakers for joining us on the webinar. It was an honor to have you here, and I think each of you deserve a deep dive session. So we promise you that in the coming months. And I would also like to thank IFAT India to put together such a nice series. It's become such a wealth of information. So you can go to their website, find out more. There are many more coming up, so join us for those as well. For now, I'd like to say thank you, goodbye, and see you next time.
Thanks a lot, Aditi, for moderating it so beautifully. Aditi, thank you very much, and thank you to ISWA for doing it so beautifully, and thanks for all our speakers.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, and namaskar.
Thank you.
Namaste. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.